The phone call came at 11:47 p.m., and I swear my heart stopped beating for a full 3 seconds when I heard the words, "Highway Patrol," on the other end. "Mrs. Hayworth, this is Officer Rodriguez. We have your son Quentin here at the station. He's safe, but we need you to come immediately." Safe. That word should have calmed me, but all I could think was how Quentin should have been safe in his bed, in our house, with his father watching him while I worked my shift at Mercy General. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grab my car keys. The drive to the police station was the longest 15 minutes of my life, and every terrible possibility ran through my mind. How did my 8-year-old end up with the police? Where was Dale? Why wasn't he answering his phone? When I burst through the station doors, I saw him immediately. My little boy, sitting in a plastic chair that made him look even smaller than his 8 years, wearing his favorite dinosaur pajamas that were now torn at the knee and covered in dirt. His face was streaked with tears, and when he saw me, he launched himself into my arms with a force that nearly knocked me backward. "Mommy!" He was sobbing so hard his whole body shook. "I tried to find you. I walked and walked, but the cars were so fast and loud and I got scared. Baby, what happened? Why were you outside? Where's Daddy?" That's when Officer Rodriguez, a woman with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything, stepped closer. She had that look cops get when something doesn't add up, when a story has pieces that don't fit together right. "Your son was found walking along Highway 95 by a trucker around 11:15, she said carefully, watching my face. "He told us he was trying to get to the hospital to find you." "That's 3 miles from our house," I whispered, holding Quentin tighter. "Baby, why were you trying to find me? What happened at home?" What Quentin said next changed everything. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his brown eyes still swimming with tears, and in that small, broken voice that I'll never forget, he said, "Dad locked me out of the house. He said to go play in the backyard, and then he locked the door. I knocked and knocked, but he wouldn't let me back in." "That doesn't make sense. Your dad would never do that. Maybe the door got stuck, or maybe you're confused about what happened." "No, Mommy." His voice got stronger, more insistent. "I'm not confused. Dad pushed me outside and locked the door. I heard it click, and Aunt Karen was there." The room suddenly felt like it was tilting. "Aunt Karen? What was Aunt Karen doing at our house?" "She came over after you left for work. Dad said they had important grown-up stuff to do and I needed to play outside for a while. But then it got dark and cold and I got scared. They were in your bedroom making weird noises. I could hear them through the window." Officer Rodriguez's expression had shifted from professional concern to something much more serious. She motioned for another officer to take Quentin to get some hot chocolate while she spoke with me privately. "Mrs. Hayworth, we've been trying to reach your husband for over an hour. He's not answering our calls. Your neighbor, a Mrs. Chen, called us after she saw our patrol car at your house. She says she has security footage we might need to see." "Security footage of what?" But even as I asked, part of me already knew. The late nights Dale had been working. The way Karen always seemed to need help with something when I wasn't around. The new perfume smell on our sheets that I'd convinced myself was from the new detergent. "Before we go any further," Officer Rodriguez said, "I need you to understand that your son walked 3 miles in the dark, crossed 2 major intersections, and was found trying to navigate Highway 95 traffic. The trucker who found him said he was nearly hit by a semi. Your 8-year-old son could have died tonight." The weight of those words hit me like a physical blow. My baby, my sweet Quentin, who still slept with a nightlight and asked me to check for monsters under his bed, had been wandering in the dark because his father locked him out, because his father was with my sister-in-law, in my bedroom, in my bed. "I want to see everything," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "The footage, the house, all of it. And I want someone to find my husband right now." Officer Rodriguez nodded. "We're already on it. But first, let's make sure your son is okay. Then we'll deal with everything else." 3 weeks before that nightmare phone call, I thought I had my life figured out. Not perfect, but figured out. Dale and I had been married for 12 years, together since college when he was the charming accounting major who helped me through statistics class. We had Quentin when I was 26, and for years we were that couple everyone envied. Date nights every Friday, family camping trips, the kind of partnership where we finished each other's sentences. But somewhere around year 10, Things shifted. Not dramatically, just slowly, like watching paint fade in the sun. Dale started working longer hours at his firm, chasing a senior partner position that always seemed just out of reach. I went back to school for my nursing degree, juggling online classes with raising Quentin and working part-time at a medical clinic. We became ships passing in the night, coordinating schedules through text messages and sticky notes on the fridge. "We just need to get through this rough patch," Dale would say, kissing my forehead as he headed out for another late night at the office. "Once I make partner and you finish your degree, we'll have more time." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then Karen arrived 6 months ago, fresh from her divorce from Todd, a man she'd been with for 5 years. She showed up at our door on a Thursday night, mascara running down her face, designer luggage in tow, asking if she could stay for just a few days while she figured things out. "She's family," Dale had said when I hesitated. "We can't turn away family." So Karen moved into our guest room, and those few days turned into weeks, then months. She was Dale's younger sister by 5 years, the baby of the family who'd always been a little lost, a little needy. Their parents had died in a car accident 3 years earlier, and Dale felt responsible for her in that way oldest siblings often do. At first, I tried to be supportive. I'd make extra coffee in the morning for her, include her in our Sunday dinners, even helped her update her resume. But Karen had this way of inserting herself into everything. She'd join Dale in his home office to help with filing, show up when we were watching movies to squeeze between us on the couch, always had some crisis that needed Dale's immediate attention. "She's just lonely," Dale would say when I mentioned it. "The divorce hit her hard. She doesn't have anyone else." The changes were subtle at first. Dale bought new cologne, something expensive that Karen had apparently recommended. He started going to the gym again, dropping 15 pounds and buying fitted shirts instead of his usual comfortable polos. When I complimented him on looking good, he'd brush it off. "Just trying to look the part for the partners," he'd say. Karen changed too. Gone were the tearful nights and baggy sweatshirts. She started wearing makeup again, buying clothes she claimed were for job interviews that never seemed to happen. She'd float through our house in sundresses and perfume, always laughing at Dale's jokes a little too loud, touching his arm a little too long. "You're imagining things," my friend Brianna said when I mentioned my concerns over coffee. "Dale's not that type. He adores you and Quentin." So I pushed down the uncomfortable feelings. I was being paranoid, jealous of the attention Dale was giving his sister when I wanted him to focus on us. I threw myself into my studies and my work, picking up extra shifts to help with the bills since we were now feeding and housing Karen too. Quentin loved having his aunt around at first. She'd play video games with him, let him stay up past bedtime when she babysat, bought him candy I'd said no to, but lately, even he'd been acting different. "Mom, why does Aunt Karen go into your room when you're at work?" He'd asked me the week before everything fell apart. "What do you mean, baby?" "Sometimes when Dad gets home, they go in there and close the door. They tell me to play my tablet with headphones on." My stomach had clenched, but I'd forced myself to stay calm. "They're probably just talking about grown-up stuff, like helping Aunt Karen find an apartment." "Maybe," Quentin had said, but he didn't look convinced. "I don't like it when they lock the door, though. What if I need something?" I'd planned to talk to Dale about it that night, but he'd texted that he was working late again. Karen was supposedly at a job interview. I'd fallen asleep on the couch waiting for him, and by morning the conversation felt less urgent. There was always something more pressing, always another fire to put out. Looking back now, all the signs were there, bright as neon. But when you trust someone completely, when you've built a life and a family together, you explain away the red flags. You tell yourself you're being crazy, that the man who held your hand through 20 hours of labor would never betray you like that. You never imagine you'll get that midnight phone call that changes everything. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything feel surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Officer Rodriguez had given Quentin a blanket and hot chocolate while she led me to a small interview room. My son's words kept echoing in my head. Dad locked me out. "Mrs. Hayworth, I need you to understand the severity of what happened tonight," Officer Rodriguez said, her voice professional but not unkind. Your son was picked up on Highway 95. He'd walked 3 miles in the dark, crossed multiple intersections, and was attempting to reach the hospital. The trucker who called it in said your son nearly walked into traffic twice. This has to be a misunderstanding, I said, even as my hands trembled around the coffee cup she'd given me. Dale would never endanger Quentin. There has to be an explanation. That's what we're trying to determine. Your son has been very consistent with his story. He says his father told him to play in the backyard around 9 o'clock, then locked the door. He says his Aunt Karen was present in the home. Karen is Dale's sister. She's been staying with us since her divorce. Officer Rodriguez made a note. And where was she tonight? I don't know. I was at work. Dale said he was staying home with Quentin. My voice cracked. He texted me at 8 saying he'd gotten Quentin ready for bed. There was a knock on the door and another officer entered, whispering something to Rodriguez. Her expression darkened. Your husband still isn't answering our calls. We've sent a unit to your house, but no one's there. Your neighbor, Mrs. Chen, has approached our officers. She says she has security camera footage from tonight that we need to see. What kind of footage? She says it shows your driveway and front door. She's very insistent that you need to see it immediately. We went back to the main area where Quentin was finishing his hot chocolate, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. A female officer was sitting with him, showing him pictures of her dog on her phone. When he saw me, he immediately reached for me. Mommy, can we go home now? I knelt down to his level. Soon, baby. We just need to figure some things out first. Can you tell Officer Rodriguez exactly what happened tonight, just like you told me? Quentin's lower lip trembled, but he nodded. Dad said I needed to play outside because he and Aunt Karen had grown-up stuff to do. I said it was dark and I was tired, but he said just for a little while. Then he closed the door, and I heard it lock. What happened next? Officer Rodriguez asked gently. I played on my swing for a while, but it got cold. I knocked on the back door, but nobody came, so I went around to the front, but that was locked too. I could see through the window that the lights were on in Mommy and Daddy's room, but the curtains were closed. Could you hear anything? Quentin's face flushed. Weird noises, like when people wrestle on TV, but different, and Aunt Karen was laughing really loud. My stomach churned. This couldn't be happening. How long were you outside? Rodriguez continued. I don't know, a long time. My tablet died, so I couldn't check. I got really scared when I heard coyotes, and I remembered Mommy was at the hospital, so I climbed over the back fence to go find her. You climbed the fence by yourself? I gasped. The fence was 6 feet tall. I used the garbage cans to boost up. I fell on the other side and hurt my knee. He showed us the torn pajamas and scraped skin, but I remembered you said the hospital was past the big road with all the stores, so I started walking. Officer Rodriguez and I exchanged looks. My 8-year-old had planned an escape route and executed it because his father had locked him out to be with another woman, with Karen, his own sister. Mrs. Hayworth, Rodriguez said quietly, given what your son is describing, we're looking at potential child endangerment charges, possibly abandonment. I need you to be prepared for what might come next. What do you mean? If your husband deliberately locked your child out of the house to engage in adult activities, that's a crime. And if Karen was complicit, she could face charges too. The room spun. This morning, I'd been worried about passing my pharmacology exam. Tonight, I was sitting in a police station learning my husband might be arrested for endangering our child. My phone buzzed. Dale. Finally. His text read, "Where are you? Where's Quentin? His bed is empty." I showed it to Officer Rodriguez. She took my phone and typed back, "We need to meet. Come to the house immediately." Then she looked at me. "We're going to your house now to review that footage. Are you ready to see what really happened tonight?" I wasn't ready. How could anyone be ready for this? But I looked at my son, traumatized and exhausted from his father's betrayal, and nodded. Let's go see exactly what my husband did tonight. Officer Rodriguez arranged for another officer to stay with Quentin at the station while we drove to my house. The familiar streets looked alien at 1 a.m, every shadow seeming to hide another betrayal. Mrs. Chen was standing in her driveway when we pulled up, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She'd thrown a coat over her pajamas, her face creased with worry. "Verona, thank God you're here." She said, rushing over. "I've been watching the footage over and over. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had to call the police." My house looked normal from the outside. Dale's car was gone, but Karen's silver Honda had clearly been there recently. I could see the oil stain it always left on our driveway, fresh and glistening under the streetlight. The porch light was off, which was strange. Dale always left it on when I worked nights. "Mrs. Chen, can you show us the footage?" Officer Rodriguez asked. We gathered around Mrs. Chen's phone as she pulled up her security app. "I installed these cameras 6 months ago after my own situation," she said quietly. I remembered her messy divorce, how she'd discovered her husband's affair through credit card statements. "They capture most of your driveway and front entrance. I wasn't trying to spy, I just wanted to see who was coming and going from my own property." "It's okay," I said, though my voice sounded hollow. "Show me." The first timestamp was 7:45 p.m., me leaving for work, kissing Quentin goodbye through the car window while Dale stood on the porch. Everything normal, everything a lie. 8:43 p.m., Karen's Honda pulling into our driveway. She got out wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, carrying a bottle of wine. Dale met her at the door, looking around nervously before letting her in. "Keep going," I whispered. 9:15 p.m., this was the one that broke my heart. Dale physically guiding Quentin out the back door, visible from the side angle of the camera. Quentin was already in his pajamas, clearly confused. Dale handed him his tablet and shut the door. The timestamp showed 9:16 when Quentin tried to immediately come back in, pulling on the door handle. 9:47 p.m., Quentin appeared in the front of the house, his small figure barely visible in the darkness. He knocked on the front door, waited, knocked again. Through the camera's audio feature, we could hear his voice. "Dad, Daddy, please, I'm scared. It's dark out here." No one came. 10:20 p.m., the worst footage. Quentin dragging the garbage cans to the back fence, visible just at the edge of the camera's range. Him climbing, falling, getting up, and limping toward the street. My baby, hurt and abandoned, while his father was inside with Karen. "There's more," Mrs. Chen said apologetically. "You need to see this." 10:45 p.m., the front door finally opened. Dale stepped out, looked around casually, checked his phone, and went back inside. He knew Quentin was gone. He knew, and he didn't care. 11:30 p.m., Dale and Karen leaving together. She was fixing her lipstick in the reflection of the car window, while Dale loaded an overnight bag into her trunk. They were laughing, actually laughing as they drove away, leaving my son God knows where in the night. I felt my knees buckle. Officer Rodriguez steadied me. "Mrs. Hayworth, this is evidence of child endangerment. We need to enter your home now to check for any additional evidence. Do I have your permission?" Yes, check everything." The front door was unlocked, which meant Dale hadn't even bothered to secure the house when he left. The living room looked normal, but the smell hit me immediately. Karen's perfume. The expensive one she couldn't afford, but somehow kept buying. It was everywhere. Officer Rodriguez and her partner did a sweep while I stood frozen in my own foyer. "Clear," they called. Then, "Mrs. Hayworth, you should see the master bedroom." I climbed the stairs that I'd climbed thousands of times, each step feeling like a betrayal. Our bedroom door was open. The bed was destroyed, sheets tangled and half on the floor, 2 wine glasses on my nightstand, Karen's earrings on Dale's dresser, her purse on my vanity. But the worst part was the note on my pillow. Karen's handwriting, "Thanks for the loan of your husband. Don't wait up." "We need to find them now," I said, my voice steel, before Dale tries to spin some story about this being a misunderstanding. Officer Rodriguez was already on her radio. "We have probable cause for child endangerment. Issue an alert for Dale Hayworth and Karen Hayworth." "Martinez," I said suddenly. "Karen uses her maiden name, Martinez." "Got it." She turned back to me. "We're going to find them. But right now, I need you to think. Where would they go?" I walked to Dale's dresser, opened the drawer where he kept his important papers. His passport was gone. So was the emergency credit card we kept for disasters. The disasters were supposed to be medical emergencies or car breakdowns, not abandoning our son to run off with his sister. "They're running," I said. "They're actually trying to run." Officer Rodriguez's phone rang just as we were cataloging the evidence in my bedroom. She listened intently, her expression shifting from professional to satisfied. They found them. Moonlight Motel off Route 60, registered under Karen Martinez. Local units are on scene now. The Moonlight Motel. I knew it. Everyone knew it. It was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. The kind of place married men took women who weren't their wives. Dale had taken his sister there while our son wandered a highway. "I want to be there when you arrest him," I said. "That's not standard protocol," Rodriguez began, but something in my face stopped her. "But given the circumstances and the fact that you're the custodial parent who needs to make decisions about your son's care, we can have you meet us at the station after we bring them in." 20 minutes later, I was back at the police station, Quentin asleep on the bench beside me, his head in my lap. Then the doors opened, and there they were. Dale looked nothing like the man who'd kissed me goodbye 12 hours ago. His shirt was untucked, hair messy, and his face cycled through emotions as he saw us. Surprise, guilt, then incredibly, anger. "Verona, what the hell is going on? Why is Quentin here? These officers are saying insane things about child endangerment." "Stop," I said, standing up carefully so as not to wake Quentin. "Just stop. We saw the footage. All of it." Karen stood behind him, still in that red dress, her arms crossed defiantly. "This is ridiculous. We went out for drinks after Quentin went to bed. There's no crime in that." Officer Rodriguez stepped forward. "Mr. Hayworth, you're under arrest for child endangerment and abandonment. Mrs. Martinez, you're under arrest as an accessory." As they read them their rights, Rodriguez pulled out her tablet. "Before we process you, though, you should know what we have." She played the footage. All of it. Dale's face went white as he watched himself lock Quentin out. Karen started crying as we watched Quentin climbing the fence, falling, limping away into the darkness. "That's not what it looks like," Dale stammered. "I just needed him to play outside for a few minutes. I thought he'd stay in the backyard." "For 2 hours? In the dark? While you were in bed with your sister?" "She's not actually my sister," Dale blurted out, and the entire station went silent. Karen's tears stopped instantly. "Dale, shut up." But it was too late. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Excuse me?" Dale's jaw clenched, realizing what he'd just done. "Karen isn't my biological sister. She's my father's stepdaughter from his first marriage. We're not related by blood." I felt like I'd been punched. "You told me she was your sister. For 15 years, you've called her your sister. At our wedding, she was introduced as your sister." "It was easier than explaining," Karen said, her voice sharp now. "Dale's dad married my mom when I was 2. Dale was 7. We grew up together, but we always knew we weren't really related." "So, this has been what, exactly?" My voice was rising. "A 15-year lie? Were you two together before we even met?" Dale couldn't meet my eyes. "We dated briefly in high school, before you and I met in college. Then Karen met Todd. I met you, and we moved on." "Moved on?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You call tonight moving on?" Rodriguez interrupted. "Mr. Hayworth, are you admitting to a romantic relationship with Mrs. Martinez?" "I want a lawyer," Dale said. "That's your right. But the child endangerment charges stand regardless. Your son was found on a highway because you locked him out. That's on camera." As they were being processed, Rodriguez pulled me aside. "There's something else. We ran a background check on Karen Martinez. The divorce from Todd? She filed citing infidelity. His infidelity. But Todd Martinez has been calling our station. He says he has evidence that Karen was having an affair during their marriage. He says the other man was Dale." The pieces clicked into place. The business trips Dale had taken last year, the weekend conferences, Karen's sudden divorce after Todd supposedly cheated. It had all been a setup, a long con to destroy 2 marriages so they could finally be together. "How long?" I asked Dale as they led him past me. "How long have you been planning this?" He stopped, the officers pausing with him. For just a moment, the mask dropped completely. "Since Karen's mom died 2 years ago. She told me she'd always loved me, that we'd made a mistake marrying other people. And Quentin, our son, he was just collateral damage in your great love story? I never meant for him to get hurt. He was supposed to stay in the backyard. "He's 8 years old," I screamed, and Quentin stirred but didn't wake. "You locked an 8-year-old outside at night so you could sleep with your fake sister." They led them away then, Dale in handcuffs, Karen crying about how this wasn't supposed to happen this way. The last thing I heard was Dale asking the officer if he could make bail tonight. Officer Rodriguez sat down beside me. "He won't make bail tonight. Child endangerment is a serious charge. He'll see a judge in the morning." "Good," I said, pulling Quentin closer. "Let him spend the night wondering where his son is and if he's safe. Just like I did." The divorce was finalized in 12 weeks, the fastest the county had ever processed. The judge, a grandmother herself, had watched the security footage with an expression of barely controlled fury. When she spoke, her words became part of the court record and part of my healing. "Mr. Hayworth, in my 30 years on the bench, I've seen parental failures of every kind, but deliberately locking a child out of their home at night to facilitate an affair represents a breach of trust so fundamental that it eliminates any claim you have to custody. You chose your desires over your child's safety. That choice has consequences." Dale lost everything. Full custody went to me. He got supervised visitation once a month, which he's only used twice in the past year. His accounting firm fired him the day after his arrest made the local news. The senior partnership he'd chased for so long disappeared along with his reputation. Karen left him 3 months after the divorce when the reality of their situation hit. No money, no jobs, and nowhere to hide from what they'd done. But I need to tell you something important, something I learned through all of this. The betrayal wasn't the worst part. It was discovering how many signs I'd missed because I trusted too much. Dale and Karen's relationship was a lie from the beginning. She was never his biological sister, just a stepsister he'd dated in high school and never truly let go of. They'd played siblings for 15 years, sitting at my dinner table, coming to Quentin's birthday parties, all while carrying on an emotional affair that turned physical the moment they thought they could get away with it. Todd Martinez, Karen's ex-husband, reached out to me a month after the arrest. He had emails, credit card records, proof that Dale and Karen had been meeting during his marriage too. We compared notes and realized they'd been planning this for 2 years, since Karen's mother died, and removed the last person who would have been horrified by their relationship. The security footage from Mrs. Chen became crucial evidence, but it also revealed more than just that one night. When we reviewed weeks of recordings, we saw a pattern. Dale and Karen together during my shifts, sometimes with Quentin locked in his room with his tablet, sometimes sent to neighbors' houses with made-up playdates. My son had been isolated and manipulated for months, trained not to tell me about Aunt Karen's visits. Quentin is in therapy now, working through the trauma of that night and the months of confusion before it. His therapist, Dr. Patel, told me something that changed how I see everything. Children who experience parental betrayal often blame themselves. They think if they'd been better, quieter, more lovable, their parent wouldn't have left. Your job is to show him every day that Dale's choices were about Dale's failures, not Quentin's worth. So that's what we do. Every single day, I show my son what real love looks like. It looks like being present. It looks like choosing him over everything else. It looks like the new house we moved into, smaller but ours, with no memories of betrayal haunting the halls. It looks like Mrs. Chen, who became like a grandmother to Quentin, teaching him to plant tomatoes in our new backyard. It looks like Officer Rodriguez, who checks in every few months and became Coach Rodriguez for Quentin's Little League team. 6 months ago, Quentin asked me if I thought Dad ever loved us. I told him the truth. I think he loved us the only way he knew how, but sometimes people's love is too small, too selfish to keep the people around them safe. That's not your fault. That's his limitation. "Is your love big enough?" he asked. "Big enough to walk every highway in the world to find you," I said. "Big enough to never lock doors between us. Big enough that you'll never have to test it by climbing fences in the dark." We're healing. Not in a straight line, but in waves and circles and sometimes spirals. Quentin still checks doors sometimes, making sure they open from the inside. He still gets anxious when I work night shifts, so I've switched to days when possible. But he's laughing again, really laughing, not the careful kind he did those first few months. Last week, Dale sent a letter asking if he could introduce Quentin to his new girlfriend. I sent back a copy of the court order highlighting the part about supervised visitation only. He doesn't get to play happy family with someone new when he destroyed the family he had. Some people ask if I'm bitter. I'm not. I'm free. Free from a man who could lock his own child out to satisfy his desires. Free from the lies that were literally sitting at my Thanksgiving table calling me sister-in-law. Free to build something real with the one person who matters most, my son. If you've watched this, far, thank you for hearing our story. If it resonates with you, if you've lived through betrayal, or if you're living through it now, please share this video. Comment below with your own experiences, because healing happens in community. And subscribe to this channel where we share real stories of survival, of rebuilding, of finding strength you didn't know you had. Remember, sometimes the worst night of your life becomes the first night of your freedom. Sometimes a locked door is really just showing you who deserves to be let in.